So I'm David Soderstrom. I own Climate Care Heating and Air Conditioning out of Norwalk, Connecticut. I joined Trades Talk because I was looking for more accountability. Accountability was a big problem in my company, and I decided to join just to get a little more accountability as far as myself and my teammates. Definitely excited. It's the second round with Chad, right? Don't know what to expect. I know we're going to be doing a lot of walking in 24 hours. I'm hoping I predict right that nobody taps out. I hope everybody makes it through, but we'll see. I think it's going to be grueling. I think by the time we get to nightfall, there's going to be some people who are really wearing out, and that's where the real tough ones are going to stick it through. But I think we got a good group, and we'll all battle through. So with this event, I'm looking to mostly get three things. I'm looking to get a little better accountability, work on the leadership, and I think all those things are going to come into play as we're out there grueling, and it's getting to be, real tiring. It's really going to be holding myself accountable and really stretching myself. I brought my wife, so it'll be really interesting. Last time I rolled solo, so it'll be really interesting to see the dynamic with her here, and obviously rooting her on, she's rooting me on, so it'll be definitely a fun dynamic.
One thing I want to say to you guys is that, my personal experience was how that whole event was kind of like stages. For me, it went from, the first 2 hours I was good, my lungs were good, my mind was good, and then I would say at hour 2, that's when that first IT ban was locked. Freak. So I started compensating, and then by hour 3, the second one locked up, and listen, Lenny knows now because he had the same problem. It's the most excruciating pain that you could possibly imagine. It feels like somebody's constantly stabbing you. And once I had gotten, I'll never forget it, it was when we got to that Copperhead Trail. We started walking that. That's when I completely lost my legs, and I was just using the sticks to propel myself up. And there was a moment when we were walking up Copperhead that, I'm not a crier, I'm not like Steve, but I literally was walking and I kept shaking my head like this, and James was next to me, and tears were just rolling down my face, and I was mentally losing it because I knew I had never felt so ashamed. I felt ashamed because I felt like I knew that next stop, if we stopped, I couldn't go. And I kept telling myself I was doing it for my son, my daughter, my wife, and I never want to let them down. And I knew that I was about to let them down, and it had me fucked up. And I'm sorry to swear, but it had me really bad, in a bad place. And when we got into that wormhole, and Chris knows, he was behind me a lot of the time, I started hallucinating. It was bad, and the guys behind me knew because I would stop, and I was chopping at things that weren't there. And I would stop the whole group, and I started feeling like I was a burden on the group. And I kept saying, snake, snake. And I would stare at the ground, and then it would be a leaf. And then I was seeing Halloween decorations off to the left, and I'm like, yo, what is going on? And I'm bugging out, and I'm seeing things in the woods. And then to make matters worse, Chad starts playing Oops, I Did It Again. And then I was like, yo, I am tripping out of my mind right now. And he's singing it, and I'm like, what is going on? Sneaky sneak. I was like, this is not real. So when I ended up getting close to that next stop, I grabbed James, and I said, listen, man, I can't keep going. And he looked at me, he's like, look, I'm not gonna let you quit. And he was dead serious. He looked at me in the eye, he said, you are not quitting. I said, I can't go, my legs are not working. And we got to that last stop, and I was sitting there, and I was packing it in, and I went back up to James again, and Chad was standing there, and James kind of freaked out on me. He was like, don't give me that I forgot what he said, he didn't say shit. He was like, don't give me that excuse, I'm not even gonna take that. And Chad just looked kind of at him, he's like, listen, let him quit. Let him quit. And that's something in that just really pissed me off. And there was a shot of adrenaline, and I grabbed my pack, and thank God for my guy Jared. If it wasn't for Jared and Sebastian and Chris, there's a lot of guys helped me through. But Jared was the man. If it wasn't for him, I would never made it through. There's no doubt. Chris was holding my backpack strap, making sure I wasn't. There's times I almost went over the embankment. Legit, I was going this way and that way. But I threw the pack on, and Jared assumed that I was out, like I was going into the van, and I got back in line. He's looking at me. I was like, let's do this, man. Let's do this. And he was just like, he looked at me and he was charged that I wasn't going in that van. He was pumped. And I think the lesson, like for everybody, if there's one lesson that I could tell all you guys, is Chad had said in the beginning that everybody who's here could make it through this course. If you would have told me, because the only time I ever had this IT band thing, I didn't even know what an IT band was until Chili told me the last time we were here. If you told me that both of my IT bands would have been tight and I would have had to go 20 plus hours more like that, I'd say you're high. There's no way. There's just no way, because I know how excruciating it is. Everybody here could have made it all the way through. It's just you need to find that like invisible gear that you don't see on the shift. You just have to pop the clutch and you gotta rip it. And you just gotta say, F it, and go for it. And that's what I took away, and that's what I came here for. I said to you guys in the beginning, I was looking to stretch myself. And that's what it was, you know. I'm happy I made it through, but I'll say my biggest takeaway is my wife, you know.
The beast.
I'm telling you, like, I've been with her, I've known her for 28 years, and she never seems to stop amazing me. She's just a force of nature. And watching her trek through and helping other people, and it's just, you know, if I've made one good decision in my life, it was marrying her and making her the mother of my children. And I mean that, like, with all my heart. But Chad, thank you. You know, you the first time we were here, you did a lot for me. But watching my wife go through it and her being lost in her own life, it just, I can't even tell you, man. I owe you a lot. You know, and all the coaches you got here are great. You know, I mean, I can't talk enough about Chili, James. I mean, I know Hal wasn't here. I liked Hal a lot last time. But you guys really doing good work here. And then I really appreciate it. I know my family's going to appreciate it. My wife's going to go back stronger. And I'm definitely going back stronger. So I love you too, Steve. Pukey. We'll call you Pukey from now on.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I just want to touch on one quick thing that you said, because I think it was a pivotal moment for you, and it was the moment you described where James was saying, no, I'm not going to let you quit, and I said, no, let him quit, and you said that pissed you off, and that actually gave you a boost, right? That actually gave you an adrenaline rush. And so I want to let you know that that's a good start, okay? That's a good start. We hear a lot of times, we hear a lot of people, influencers, people that we look up to or respect. It's a pretty popular message to say, well, let people that hate you or say things mean about you, or let that fuel you, right? And that's actually a really amateur way to operate. So don't get confused by this message. Now, sometimes in that situation, you used that mean thing that I said to fuel you, right? And that's where you're at right now. But I want you to know the ultimate place to get to is when you no longer allow anything that anyone says to influence you whatsoever. You are totally self-contained, right? And how do we get to the point where we can operate in a way where no one else, nothing that anyone says in our industry, nothing that anyone says about us in our personal life, people like to pick at us, people are jealous of us, they say things. The ultimate goal is to become free of ourselves. If you can ever become free from yourself, then nothing anyone says can impact you whatsoever, right? I know that's a deep, deep thing to think about, but the ultimate goal is being set free from yourself. And the only way you can't set yourself free from yourself. Christ can set you free from yourself. Right?
But it's a funny thing though, Chad, because one thing when I kept reflecting on like the whole journey, I still can't figure out when I had reached that was the last stop, right, Mom? Yeah, so the last stop, when we pulled in there, like physically, mentally, there was nothing. I'm telling you, like my legs were done.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were walking back up, I remember praying and saying, I prayed to my grandfather, I prayed to God. I'm not a huge God guy, but I obviously believe in Christ. And I said, just please, like, help me find a way to get through. Just help me find a way to get through. And when we went back and I said that, and you guys remember me on that last leg, I had, like, I'm not gonna say I had zero pain, but I was moving. And I don't know what happened between that, getting to that station and starting that fourth leg that changed, but something changed. And I don't know what it was.
That's
I don't know if it
good,
was
man.
the adrenaline or what.
That's good, man. Yeah, just always keep in mind the ultimate goal of the ultimate goal is to be free from yourself, so that you cannot be impacted by anything anyone else says about you or to you. And I'm still on that journey, so I'm preaching to myself right now. But that statement you made just kind of stood out to me. So you used it in the way you had to use it. But next time you come back, I hope anything that I say or do doesn't impact you whatsoever, because you're just going to do what you are supposed to do. Period.
Well, the music impacted me.
Yeah.
That set me to the roof.
I'm going to jump in real quick on that. So those of you that were around me most of the time, he was like, man, you guys are going to set a course record. I'm like, I don't want to hear nothing. I just locked them out.
Yep.
Anything good, anything bad.
Yep.
I just didn't want to hear a word. And you guys want to save some time? I'm like, nope, just keep moving. Just keep moving. I'm not going to allow me being delirious to take the candy. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what, I don't want to say I think, I know that's what got me through is I just locked everything out.
Yep.
There were a couple of you guys said to me, I don't think you spoke for 8 straight hours. If whoever was keeping time, right? Because all I did was focus on the 2 feet in front of me. Lindsay's feet, that's it. She was in front of me, I just kept following the feet. And my eyes were like twitching and closing, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this massive spider in my face, and Chad said, just spiders, don't worry about it. There's plenty of them. I'm like, okay, right? But you have to get to a point, just like what Chad said, is it doesn't matter anything good or bad. Like, don't get caught up in the praise and don't get caught up in the criticism, because they both will catch you. Because the minute if I started to believe that we were going to set a course record, and Brian's like, let's do this. I'm like, dude, just tell me how good I did at the end. Let me just run or walk really slow.